Hello everyone and welcome back to the good stuff. We are continuing our 1858 match between Johann Jakob Löwenthal and Paul Charles Morphy, and this is the last game from the match we'll be showing. It's been a lot of fun, and but you know, all good things must come to an end. But no worries, there are plenty of other matches against other very strong opponents. So like I said, the last game we'll be showing, and things not looking all that great for our good friend Löwenthal. Not only is he not close to winning the match, but well, he's just doing very poorly in the match. He did play that beautiful sort of immortal game against Morphy, but Morphy had an even separate bet with Löwenthal, saying that he will not score even 5 wins in the match, and so far Löwenthal not very close to this. But regardless of that, it's a very nice game. Let's check it out, and then we're gonna talk about where we are heading with the Morphy Saga. Who is he playing next? You know, what's happening with Howard Staunton and so on. So let's check it out. Löwenthal with the white pieces opens with e4, as he usually does. We have e5, knight to f3, and knight to c6. And here we have bishop to b5. And it's pretty incredible. This game is... well, theory-wise, as if it was played in 2020, as you'll see. So a6, Morphy goes for Morphy's defense. Imagine that. We have bishop to a4 and knight to f6. We have castles, and now b5, challenging the bishop, bishop to b3, and now bishop to c5. Capturing an e4 is something you just don't do because, well, nowadays we know theory, but it seems in those days Morphy probably didn't know theory about this, but he knew that he, of course, preferred development to material, but we will show it as it's very interesting. For example, if knight captures an e4, you can bust open the position with d4, the black king is still in the center of the board, and if captures, for example, rook e1, d5, it seems like black defended everything perfectly. There's this very nasty knight to c3 idea, and black's position will be incredibly difficult to play. For example, you capture the knight, the bishop captures on d5, attacking this knight, and well, it's just a terrible position for black. White will be able to win this easily. So after this bishop to b3, Morphy just continues development with bishop to c5, and now c3, preparing to strike in the center with the d4. We have d6, Morphy now adds another defender here, prepares to develop the light square bishop, and d4. We have e captures on d4, c captures, and bishop to b6. We have bishop to g5. This is the main theory, even today in 2020. Maybe not in 2020. I think the last time this was played it was in 2018. But still, h6 was the main continuation here. However, here in the position, Morphy played bishop to b7, and it is as of move 10 that this position has never been reached again. So let's see how Staunton deals with this. He continues developing, knight to c3, and now knight back to e7. Morphy prepares to shift the knight over to the king side, and he wants to start, well, opening up the position here with c5. We have rook to e1 by Löwenthal, and now h6. Morphy says, okay, you decide what you want to do with this bishop. You can double my pawns, however, that will give me the open g file for my rook to attack, and with the bishop here so nicely slicing over the board, it's not going to be very pleasant. So Löwenthal goes back, bishop to h4, and Morphy just continues the attack, g5. We have bishop to g3, and now instead of castling, Morphy says, I'm just going to play king to f8, get my king a little bit to safety, because I still want to probably open up the king side and use my rook for attacking purposes. So queen to d3. Continuing development, e5 was also very interesting here, but these are very old games. Unless it's super interesting, we're not going to dwell on it for too long. And Morphy continues with c5, striking in the center, and also there's this very interesting idea of, I'm not going to mention it since I'm going to ask you to pause the video later on, but here e5 now with one move delay, and d captures on e5 by Morphy. And here we have bishop captures on e5, and the position is incredibly interesting. Morphy's knight is hanging. He cannot move the knight because the rook is hanging. So what would you play here? This is not the real pause the video moment in this video. There's going to be another one. So this is like secondary, not as important one, because it's mostly you have to figure out how to defend properly, but still feel free to pause the video and what do you play here for Morphy while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the only move that works here for Morphy, and that is c4. You don't care about this because an attack on the queen, requires white to act, and you cannot just continue by grabbing pieces. So c4, attacking the queen, queen to e2, getting the queen out of the way, and only now knight to g6. You defend your knight. White's bishop is still under attack. You have to go back. Knight goes back, and then knight to f4, and the position all of a sudden comes very much alive. And you know who can really tell what's happening here? Black has beautiful knight here. The bishop pair is slicing all the way there. If you open up the g file, then you also allow Morphy the g file to use for attacking purposes. So it's a really crazy position where Morphy really should have played c4. However, Morphy defended his knight here with king to g7, but now this simply doesn't work because knight to e4. And now there's a problem. Your knight here is attacked twice. It's also pinned. You cannot move it. So only move bishop captures on e4. This is what Morphy plays. We have queen captures on e4, and now knight to g6, adding another defender here. Also interesting is rook to e8, just to show you how easily white can win a position like this. Is just, for example, captures on f6, king captures and queen h7, and there's just nothing for black to do. You can't go back, f7 is hanging, and well, if you prevent the attack on f7, you can go knight e5, again attack f7, and for example, if rook to f8, then knight to g4 is just checkmate. The king has nowhere to go, all of these squares are taken. And that's just it, a beautiful checkmate with the king on f6. So this is only one of the possibilities that could happen here if Morphy defends with anything less than perfection. So here Morphy goes knight to g6. Now the queen is also defending the f6 knight, so you don't have to worry about any trickery. However, here a lot of moves are possible. We're just going to show one that's incredibly interesting, but was not played in the game, and that is bishop captures on f7. And this is just an incredible move because after king captures, you first capture here on f6, queen captures, so everything is forced, and now queen to d5, preparing to bring your rook into the game. Looks a bit weird because it kind of looks like you don't have ways of bringing more attackers into the game and you're down material. However, after the king moves, you're just going to bring the rook into the game, and after queen to f7, preventing any captures because the queen would hang, knight to e5 now, attacking both the queen and the knight, and after captures with check, king g8. Now you're just going to play rook to e7. The queen has to be careful where the queen goes, otherwise you're getting checkmated. And after, let's say, queen to g6, guarding the g7 square, now queen to d5 check, and now it's game over because the rook on a8 hangs, and you're just going to be up material and easily winning. For example, king f8, rook e6, first attack the queen, now the queen has to react, and the rook will fall with check. So only one of the interesting options Löwenthal has in this position, bishop captures on f7, really an outstanding move. However, he goes for queen to b7 instead, puts pressure on f7 this way, and also puts a little bit pressure on the bishop here, so the queen is for the moment stuck guarding the bishop. However, Morphy finds a move that brilliantly defends against all of this, rook to a7. Now the queen has to go back, we have queen back to c6, and now, while there are a lot of moves, you could play like c captures on d4, Morphy decides to go for c4. He opens up the dark square bishop a little bit, but maybe capturing on d4 was better, as it would do the same thing. You could later push the pawn, and well, you don't really gain all that much by shifting white's bishop to c2. The white's bishop is actually much more useful on c2 than it was on f7 after the white queen was kicked away. But okay, here Morphy should continue with knight captures on e5, remove a very strong attacker. However, Morphy plays bishop to c7. He decides to get rid of the attacker this way, but now it just doesn't work. He gives Löwenthal an incredibly important tempo. He plays rook a to d1, and now there are problems. If you exchange something like captures, then the knight is hanging, the queen is hanging. There's also this. You have to be very careful, and there's simply not much for you to do. If you go knight to d7, e6 is coming. It's just entire position crumbles, and it's going to be terrible. If you capture, then the knight becomes weak, and everything just falls apart. The rook can come up to the board. Just terrible position for Morphy. So instead we have queen to e7. Morphy decides to move the queen out of the way. However, you are placing the queen right in front of the rook. But okay, here first we have bishop captures on g6, and now while you could capture with the f-pawn, then d5 is incredibly strong, and now you're threatening d6. There's still so many things hanging, it's very hard to play. For example, captures, captures, and now you get this position where the material is kind of equal. Morphy is up a pawn, but Löwenthal has a beautiful pass to d-pawn. He has a well, his rooks are excellently placed. The knight can easily come into the game, and it's just a much better position. So Morphy doesn't like this. Instead, he plays king captures, but it's pretty much the same thing. d5, threatening to play d6 here. So bishop captures with knight captures on e5. Now comes with check as the king is on g6, king g7. And now, as the queen is once again aligned with the rook, he goes knight to g6, attacking the queen this way with the knight, attacking the rook. And of course, you have to react to this. You could try giving up the queen for two pieces, like captures, captures, and captures. However, after d6, white has a bit too much compensation to go for all of this. So after this knight to g6 idea, we have queen to d8, and now Löwenthal just goes after the rook. We have knight captures on h8, king captures, and now d6, continuing to push the pawn. King to g7, bringing the king back, adding one more defender to the knight, and now a4. Löwenthal goes with the idea that he wants to bust open this pawn chain here. He doesn't think it's very good to leave like that, because it's also very easy for Morphy to create a pass pawn, just b4 c3, and already there's a pass pawn. So first rook to d7 by Morphy. He gives up one of the pawns to take care of the d6 pawn. So we have a captures, captures, and captures, and now rook captures on d6. But Löwenthal says, I'm up the exchange. I really don't care here. So here we have queen captures on c4, and now comes h5. Morphy is now down the exchange and also down a pawn, but he will still try. He still has a knight, and you know, as long as Morphy has at least a knight, it's never over. So here you have h3, making some breathing room for the king, and knight to d7. The knight is now coming to e5. We have rook to e3. Now with ideas of rook to d3, and also helping out with the defense of the third rank, we have knight to e5 attacking the queen. And now, only now, feel free to pause the video and try to find the absolute simplest way to win this position while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on playing really any move, because white is winning here. However, if you found the move that Löwenthal played, which is the absolute simplest way to win this game, then congratulations, as you are a true master of simplicity. And that is rook captures on e5. This is absolute simplest, as it trades down into a king and pawn endgame, with white being up an extra pawn. And here, Löwenthal just shows that he understands pawn endgames and that Morphy can safely resign here, which he does, as it was in this position on move 38 that Paul Charles Morphy resigned the game. Or rather, maybe he didn't resign, maybe they played it on, because the official notation has 3 dots after queen to c3, so the game might have continued into an endgame. However, I do not know such things. Maybe it's possible, maybe not. But however, the game is completely winning, and we'll just call it Morphy resigns here, even though he could have played it and lost. Doesn't really matter. So it's incredibly easy to play this with white. For example, captures, captures. Maybe you don't have to capture, but at least now the black king is closer to the white pawn. But it's sorry about that. It would be too easy for white to play this. For example, king e2, king d5, king d3. You gain opposition, you protect your pawn, and now it doesn't matter. Whatever you play after a few more moves, black will not have any moves to play, and then white just trades everything. There's not much to be done here. Captures, captures. You're gonna play captures, captures, and after another king move, let's say king e4, you're gonna eliminate this pawn. Black has to tend to this pawn, and you're just going to move the king and queen this pawn. So incredibly easy endgame, and of course Morphy resigns before any of this happens. So yeah, after this queen to c3 move, Morphy resigns before, like I said, probably before even going into an endgame. So, great victory for Johann Jakob Löwenthal. However, he loses the match pretty bad, as out of the 14 games they played, Löwenthal won 3, 2 games were drawn, and Morphy won 9 games. So this is not only winning the match, but also winning his personal bet with Löwenthal that he will not win 5 games, which is pretty awesome. However, something that I didn't think would happen, because of course Löwenthal wanted revenge for his loss to Morphy in 1850, now 8 years ago. After the match, he told Morphy that Morphy only won games due to Löwenthal's oversights, and that he was a much better player, but that he was just playing lesser moves. And Morphy thought this was very rude of him, and I mean, it's not Morphy's fault if he doesn't play every move brilliantly. I mean, it's your game, play any move you want. But yeah, Löwenthal was like this, and I guess he was still very, very much hurt about not getting his revenge after waiting for so long. So this is how the match went. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. It was really enjoyable for me. Löwenthal got his immortal game against Morphy, so let's not forget that. And now, what happens next in the saga? Will finally Paul Charles Morphy face his nemesis, the legend Howard Staunton, or will something else happen? Well, Morphy is still trying to get a match with Staunton. Staunton said when Morphy first came to England that he will need at least a month to prepare to, brush up on his openings, to see probably how Morphy plays. That's why Morphy is playing against all of Staunton's minions. But still the match is not happening, and now Staunton says that he will maybe be able to play after the Birmingham meeting that both him and Morphy were planning on playing. And then, things are still heating up. I will show 2 letters between Morphy and Staunton, but we're gonna save that for later, because now a very, very strong player is returning to England, one of England's finest, and that's Henry Bird. And Morphy will play a 10-game match against Henry Bird while waiting for a reply from Howard Staunton. And not all games were saved. I think only 4 games are available out of these 10 games, so we're gonna show all 4 of them, as it's incredibly interesting, and we still haven't we haven't shown all that many games by Henry Bird on this channel, and he's a pretty famous guy. So that's where we're going next in the Morphy saga. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Aldo Fosco, Lawler Music, Jack Mahoney, William F. Field, and Robert Arathun for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the Morphy saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.